What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another video. And in this video, I just dropped all my notes. We are going to be looking at our new additions that we brought into this offseason. So all the players that we brought in, whether it was via trade, well, pretty much all the players that we brought in. And we're going to be talking about what their potential roles could be in 2020 for the Detroit Lions. Now, these will definitely change after the draft. But for now, we're going to be talking about these. So let's get it started. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. I don't know why my computer's doing that. I saw them Instagram notifications. Anyways, that video is coming. So if you see this video first, the video where I react to your guys' mock drafts is coming. It's recorded. I just have to edit it and everything like that. So that's going to take a little bit. But it is coming, okay? So don't think I forgot. Maybe tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure when it's going to come. Now, like I said, these are players that we brought in this offseason, and the rules could change after the draft. Like, for example, Big V, okay? If we go out and we draft a high tackle, his role is going to absolutely change. We'll kind of mention that as we go through. But the reason I'm doing this is because I did it last year, and last year you guys did enjoy this video, and I think that was on my old channel. You guys did enjoy me looking at what these free agent roles could be. So, you know, after the draft, we'll do this again with drafted players, probably everybody. Yeah, I think we did with drafted players, so I want to try it with free agents before the draft starts, and then, you know, we'll talk about a little bit what could happen with certain players being drafted. What I need you guys to do is two things. One, comment below for the players that I go through what you think their role will be, and two, make sure you click the link in the description and subscribe to my gaming channel, all right? If you haven't done that yet, you're missing out. I'm telling you, we got some good stuff over there. If you're a Lions fan, well, I mean, you are Lions fans. If you like Madden, all right? If you like gaming, anything like that, go subscribe over there. We do Lions stuff. We do Madden drafts. We're doing a lot of gaming stuff. Had a lot of stuff coming, so make sure you guys go check out that. Now, let's get into these players. We're going to start off with Big V. Hapulapati Vitae. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't even have his name up, so I just completely guessed there. That was awful. Anyways, this is Big B from the Philadelphia Eagles, the offensive tackle that was a backup with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, he did play in over 400 snaps last season, so even though he's listed as a backup, he was behind two of the best tackles in the league, in Johnson and Peters, and because of that, he didn't get that starting opportunity. But when he did play in and he stubbed in, he was a good offensive lineman. Now, he is known for his run blocking ability, very good rushing offensive lineman. Pass blocking, not so much. However, it still was graded out better than Rick Wagner. So I guess it still is a slight upgrade there. Now, he was brought in on a 5-year, $50 million initially. I've heard it's been dropped down to like $45 million. You know, the contract's kind of weird, but the Lions can get out of it after a couple of years. But his role right now, it seems like, would be a right tackle because we lost Rick Wagner. He would seem to be the exact replacement, and that's what he did a lot with Philadelphia. He played the tackle position. I don't see Taylor Decker moving, so I think, you know, he's going to be a right tackle. And I said, you know, I think the Lions are really prioritizing the tackle position. However, if we draft a tackle and that tackle can't move the guard or doesn't do as well at guard, then that guy may stay at right tackle, and Big V could easily be a right guard, potentially a left guard, probably a right guard for us. So I could see his role moving the guard. However, I think right now the obvious choice is that he would be our right tackle. Next up, we have Jamie Collins, who we signed, the linebacker from the New England Patriots, to a 3-year, $30 million deal. Now, there's a big question mark going around the linebackers now, so I'm just going to keep it short and simple. Will he be the Sam, the Mike, the Jack? I have no idea. We know that Devon Kennard has been released, who was the edge or the Jack role, and I don't think he's going to be Devon Kennard's role. I think a lot of people look at this and they say, hey, he's the next Devon Kennard, but I don't think he is. And actually, looking at it a little bit more, I think the reason Devon Kennard was moved is because he didn't have the same versatility that some of these other players do. You know, Devon Kennard was a guy that gets the pressure, and he had a lot of volume at the edge rusher position, so he came up with back-to-back years with 7 sacks. But I think the Lions are looking for more linebackers that can play multiple positions. Kennard really only played at that edge rusher position. A guy like Jamie Collins can play there. He could play in the inside, in the box. He can move all around, probably play every single linebacker position. We have a lot of guys that can do that between Jarrad Davis, Jelani Tavai, Christian Jones. All of these guys can play those different positions right now. So I think Jamie Collins will be in the box type of linebacker. He played most of the snaps like that with the New England Patriots. However, I would not be shocked if he played some time at Jack, but I do think most of his time will come inside the box for the Detroit Lions, you know, where he's one of our interior linebackers. I could definitely see Jarrad Davis getting an opportunity to play on the edge position. I could see some other guys, you know, taking that over. I could see Jarrad Davis not starting next season. I could definitely see that, but he can play different positions. I just think he was more successful in the inside linebacker position with New England, and that's where he played more snaps, even with Patricia when he was there. So that's where I think he'll be with the Lions. I don't think he is the exact Devon Kennard replacement. I think that's more Austin Bryant. So that's where I think his role will be. Next up, Daron Harmon. Now, Daron Harmon is the safety that we traded for this offseason from the New England Patriots. Now, he is a closer. He is a coverage specialist, not necessarily a run specialist. I do see him as a starter. He wants to have his biggest role that he's ever had with the Lions this season. He's familiar with Matt Patricia like a lot of these players are because they were with New England. I think he's going to be a starting safety on normal sets where you have two safeties out there. I think he'll start with Tracy Walker. I also think when there's one safety sets, it could be either him or Walker, maybe Walker because some more versatility there. When we bring out three safety sets, which we do a lot, Will Harris will probably be that guy in. I don't think Will Harris will start this season. I think it will be Duron Harmon because he gives you that veteran leadership, and he also is a guy that can make a lot of plays in the back end, which we didn't have last year. We didn't have guys that come up with some interceptions. So I think Duron Harmon will be a starter next season for us, and I think he's going to be our coverage safety. And we'll see how much he really does play, but I think his role will go way up because he was a backup with New England. I think he'll be a starter with the Lions. Next up, we have Desmond Trufant. Now, Desmond Trufant was brought in right after we traded Darius Slay. Or no, he was brought in right before we traded Darius Slay. He looks like the exact replacement for a guy like Darius Slay, which I actually do believe he kind of is. I don't think he's as good as Darius Slay. However, he is a pretty solid player. And he talked about how last year he was finally able to come up with some of those big plays. Like he was in position years before. Last year he was actually able to make the most of them. And that's why in only 9 games played, he came up with 4 interceptions. This is a guy that's a solid cornerback. He's been a very reliable, consistent cornerback in the NFL. I think he will be our number 1 cornerback right now. If we bring in Jeffrey Okudah, possibly he bumps to the number 2. Okudah could be the number 2 as well. I'm not really sure. Depends on how ready Okudah is to play right away. That could change throughout the season. I do think he's going to be 1 or 2. He's either going to be the 1 corner, he's going to be the 2 corner. If we don't bring in Okudah, he'll probably be the 1 with Amani across from him or whoever else we bring in. And Amani will just be a depth guy once again. So I'm not really sure. I do believe he'll be either the 1 or 2 though. It really just depends on if we bring in Jeffrey Okudah or not. And even if we do bring in Jeffrey Okudah, he could still be the number 1 and Jeff could be the number 2 because he's only a rookie. So I think he does to be a starter, and I think he is probably going to be the number 1 corner, potentially the number 2 next season. Next up, we have Danny Shelton, defensive lineman that we signed for the Patriots to a 2-year, $8 million deal, which, by the way, was an absolute steal. The 26-year-old who came up with 60 total tackles last season and 3 sacks. This is going to be the starting defensive tackle for the Detroit Lions without a doubt. Pretty much no doubt in my mind this guy starts next season. I know his deal isn't huge, but he's a very good player. Again, Patriot ties, probably his best season last season. Just a great run stopper. Kind of brings back, what we lost in Snacks Harrison. I don't think he's as good at Snacks Harrison's peak, but again, this is kind of his peak, so we could see him ball out next season and just be really, really good, which obviously makes a lot of players better in this defense. So yes, I see him as a starting defensive tackle. I don't see him moving too much around. He'll be inside the defensive line all the time. So there's Danny Shelton. Now, Nick Williams, the other defensive lineman we signed to a 2-year, I think it was $10 million deal, which is actually crazy because that was more than Danny Shelton from the Chicago Bears. That doesn't sound right. I'm not sure. Was it 2-year, $4 million? I don't know. Either way, we brought in Nick Williams from Chicago, and I think he's going to be a depth defensive lineman. I don't think he's going to start anywhere. I think Trey Flowers, we usually have 3 on the D line, so it'll be Flowers, Shelton, whoever else we bring in, maybe Okwara, it could be someone else. I don't think it'll necessarily be Nick Williams. However, I do think he will rotate in. He'll be a solid player for pass rush. I think he can play on the end of the defensive line because he was able to get 6 sacks last season. I think the Lions may try him there. I think he'll play at different positions on the defensive line. I just don't think he'll start unless there's injuries. Hopefully that's not the case. Reggie Ragland up next, one of the more recent signings we made, the linebacker from the Kansas City Chiefs, who was an inside linebacker, once again another box player. This guy could range from being cut to being a starter. I really think that's possible. I think he could go from taking Jelani Tavai and Jared Davis's role and playing that inside linebacker because he's young just like those guys, and he wants to earn his time, and he did start at Kansas City for a while, to a guy that doesn't even make the squad. And, he's a very good run stopper. His coverage is pretty inconsistent, but again, our coverage guys are not very good at the linebacker spot anyways. They don't cover well anyways, so he could still be an upgrade. Very good run stopper, big hitter out of Alabama. I could definitely see this guy starting, and I could also see him not even being on the team. I'm assuming if I had to bet what his role will be, I think he'll be a backup rotational kind of player, may even play in some kind of special teams role as well, but I think he'll be a rotational player, but I could see him starting, and I also could see him being cut. That's Reggie Ragland. Next up, we have J-Ron Curse, the special team / safety that we brought in from the Minnesota Vikings on a 1-year, $2.75 million, I want to say. This is a guy with a lot of size, and I think he has the potential to play a rotational spot at safety. However, I think he could almost be like a hybrid type of linebacker with the size that he does have, but his main role on the Detroit Lions will be a special teams player. That's what he was in Minnesota. He was known as a special teams stud. They said we got to steal in special teams, so I think that's what he'll be. However, I think if injuries did occur, like last season, knock on wood, that doesn't happen, he could come in at some point and be a versatile linebacker / safety that we could put in. Next up, we have Tony McRae, the cornerback from the Cincinnati Bengals. This is specifically a special teams player. I don't see him really getting any time at cornerback unless he shows us something that we weren't expecting. I think with Amani, Trufant, Coleman, probably bringing in another cornerback in the draft. I don't see him getting a lot of opportunities, possibly even free agency still. I don't see him getting really any opportunities at cornerback, but he will be a special teams player for us. Next up, Chase Daniel, who is the backup now. He's simply, like I just mentioned, the backup quarterback to Matthew Stafford. That's what he is. He's the second string. He'll be the backup to Stafford, a veteran presence that we didn't have to back up Stafford before, that if he needs to come in, he can hopefully, pull out some of these games that we need to be able to win. He has had a history of winning some games. He beat the Lions on Thanksgiving. This is also a guy that I think will be a good mentor for the third string quarterback, whether that's David Blau or a drafted one or possibly even a different one that we weren't thinking of. Chase Daniel will be the guy to be the leader, the mentor for the third string, and, he'll be to teach him a little bit with Matthew Stafford. But while he's not playing, they'll be able to, work with each other, and he'll be able to point out some things. That'll be his role with Detroit Lions. I don't think he'll come in very often. I just think he's a second string. So if he has to, he will. And then finally, Geronimo Allison, which was our most recent signing, the wide receiver from the Packers. This guy's role could range a lot of different ways. Now, I do think he's a depth wide receiver, and that's pretty much what it's going to be. I don't see him being a top 2, top 3 wide receiver because I think those are locked up. He could, however, take Marvin Hall's role. Marvin Hall had like 200 and some receiving yards last season, but he only had 7 receptions. There were just a lot of deep balls. That's why he's Deep Ball Hall. He's still a legend. I'm not taking anything away from him. He averaged like 37 yards per reception. But I think his role could range from being the 4th wide receiver to being cut. Now, Geronimo Allison's numbers don't shock you right away, and they don't oh, wow, that's great. But if you compare him to other players that are on the lines, it's not awful. Comparing him to Danny Amendola, he was similar last season in catch percentage. You compare him to a guy like Marvin Jones in 2018, catch percentage was similar. So he's not awful. The fumbles are definitely a big concern with Geronimo Allison, and he's 6'3", so he gives you some size there. I believe he's only on that 1-year veteran minimum deal. So this is a guy that's going to come in. He's probably going to be a depth wide receiver. He may not even make the team, however, and he did play 10% special teams last season. So I think there's a chance that he could be a special teams role player as well. In one season, he played 35% of the snaps on special teams. So I can see them trying to use him there as well and just keep beefing up that special teams group. But those are our new additions, and that's what I think the roles will be, at least before the draft. When the draft comes, we'll do this again with drafted players and probably everybody else. Make sure you guys let me know what you guys want to see. The video is coming where I look at your guys' mock drafts, and also make sure you go check out my gaming channel, DoseOfDion Gaming. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.